Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Evan Welchel. I'm the Senior Director of Revenue Marketing here at GitLab, and this is the SDR group conversation, soon to be the Revenue Marketing group conversation. I added a little additional flavor from the other groups to my presentation this time around, and the focus will continue to shift in that direction, where we'll be incorporating more about field marketing, digital marketing, and soon ABM into the group conversation. Slides are presented. I went over quickly a monthly recap for the SDR performance, which we had a very good month, the highest month performance to date in history, both looking strong from a pipeline perspective as well as a SEO perspective. And then some highlights around the work we're doing with PMG on the digital side and how we're getting more ads into market and more leads created. And highlight a few of those results, and then a few of the things that I'm thinking about and what we're working on and progress to date for the quarter from some of the objectives that I stated in the last group conversation. So with that in mind, I want to open it up for questions. I don't see any in the doc at this point, but I don't know if anybody wants to kick it off. If nothing is written, if they just want to verbalize a question. And it can be about data, it can be about the digital campaigns, it can be about some of the activities that we're taking and changes that we're making, et cetera.
Hey, Evan, I'll kick us off. Some of the graphs, like they showed super high peaks in June and then they slide it down and now we're picking back up. Can you walk us through kind of what happened there? Have we reclassified things? What's behind that?
The peaks in June or in July?
In July, probably.
Yeah, July. So July was, I think, your typical end of quarter rush to some extent. We also had some STRs come off of ramp. So we're seeing more quota being attained as the STRs ramp. We did quite a bit of hiring as well. As you see the same spike in September, we have more reps going live into market. So we continue to see a growth in the SAOs. We're also seeing growth in demand and the leads that we're fielding. So I think that that's part of it as well. The MQLs are going up month over month. So we're seeing more leads going to the different teams. We're seeing more reps becoming efficient and effective. So I think that was a spike in July. August, we had force management training, so we had a short week. So we still had a fairly strong month in August as a result of even not being live for a good portion of that week. And then I think September is, again, we're seeing a spike because we have more reps. We've hired more reps. They're coming off of their ramp quotas, and we had a full month.
Cool, thanks.
Yep, and it's interesting because you actually see the pipeline as we exit the month grow. And I think part of September too, Sid, is it was really when the segmentation for commercial went live. So we've got teams aligned to both mid-market and SMB. So you can see a little bit of a spike in the pipeline numbers within commercial, because we now have, instead of a BDR team, we have a fully dedicated SDR team to the commercial space, and we have more of them. We basically doubled the size of that team.
Thanks for that.
Hayden, do you want to verbalize your question? Bad Wi-Fi at hotel.
Yeah, a little bit spotty here, Evan. Thank you.
All right. I'll verbalize it for you, buddy. What is the process for scheduling the acceleration team for a particular SAL territory? So we have a calendar outlined right now. I would work with Matt if there's a specific need. Right now, the calendar is outlined based off of hiring and hiring plans. So we're picking territories where you're identifying, hey, I've got a SAL coming live, X, Y, and Z, or I have a new SAL in this territory. So right now it's really focused on those new SALs, because the intent of that team is creating more conversations and demands and more pipeline to some extent, but more conversations for the new SALs as they come on board. We're trying to shrink that ramp time for the SALs as sort of our primary goal. So I would say work with Matt if there's and he put in there, obviously, the acceleration team request issue. But if there's an urgent need, we can certainly look at prioritizing what's already on the calendar. And for those, there is actually a slide calling out some of the activity we've seen with the acceleration team. It's pretty interesting. We've digital has just gone live with the acceleration team, but we're already seeing results. I think we're at around 17 meetings, seven of which have converted to SAOs, and the split is highlighted in the slide as far as the region. So we're still very much so in a phase of iteration with that team, but we're already seeing a positive trend, which is great. And so we're planning next month. Digital will be live prior to the month beginning. Social will be going prior to the month beginning. And they'll have their territories and action plans defined prior to the month beginning. So it'll start, we plan a month out for each territory. John, do you want to verbalize your question?
Sure. I'm curious about the like the quality of the leads. So do we kind of assess like how those leads that are being generated by some of our campaigns compared to those that are being sourced by STRs, you know, like what percentage of those leads convert into SAOs and which channels are kind of most effective?
We're just starting to have that conversation, right? And looking at the overall volume, I've got an overall SAO or MQL to SAO conversion rate of about 3% right now. I don't have that broken out by channel yet. That's sort of the next step. We literally had our first lead quality meeting this week, where we're going to start looking at the individual channels and what the conversion rates look like for the individual channels, so we can make different investments based off of what we're seeing.
Cool. Thank you.
Elsha, do you want to verbalize your question?
I can, yeah. So we're working with a digital agency. I wondered whether you could explain to everyone how the accounts are added and removed from the campaigns that the agency's running, please.
Yeah, so there's actually two parts to that question. So the agency isn't necessarily specifically targeting any accounts at this time. The only point which agency gets involved in targeting specific accounts is the acceleration team is asking them to serve up specific ads on social to target lists that they've built. As far as specific account targeting, that's where the ABM piece comes into play, and we're going to be using demand-based for that. We've got a pilot coming up in the commercial space with a target list where we're going to begin targeting specific accounts. So that would be more on the ABM side if you're looking at account-specific targeting. We could do some through PMG, but PMG is more of a holistic approach to digital. Did that answer your question?
No. So what have they been running adverts for? So where do they choose where on LinkedIn to place adverts and Facebook, etc.? How do they choose where to place their ads?
I'm going to defer to Matt to answer that question. Matt, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on.
Matt. All right.
Thanks,
Matt's sort of the mastermind behind PMG, so I asked him to jump in because I knew these questions would come up and he'd be better at answering than me.
Yeah,
Thanks,
based off like more, lack of better words, like demographic targeting. On LinkedIn, you can do a little bit more on the company side. So on the acceleration team with the lists, we're able to target specific companies in itself. So kind of like a quasi ABM platform. But where the ads are showing, it's based off of like contextual like demographics of like how people are searching and what they're interested in, and showing ads in that way. So that's why you're seeing ads on like related websites like DevOps.com and tech related websites. There's also a retargeting piece. So you may be seeing ads that seem irrelevant, but it's because you landed on a GitLab page and now those ads are being shown to wherever you're visiting based off a certain frequency cap. So that's how we're deciding on where the ads are showing right now. Does that make sense? Do you have any other questions, Elsha?
No, that's it. Thanks very much, Matt. That's useful. Thanks.
Sure.
Cool. All right, Ruggy, it's your turn.
How many questions do you want?
I actually have answers to some of these questions, so go for it.
Wow, that's fantastic. So again, I mean, it's a good question we've talked about a lot, right? So we've increased the number of reps that we have by 2.5x at least. Commercial is geometrically more. We have incremental growth in demand gen, but it's certainly not 2.5x. It's not doubling. And so there's a gap in that. How do we cover that gap?
So there's a couple things that we've been working on as it relates to, and I'm going to talk specifically to the hiring piece of that because I think that's probably what you're most curious about. So the hiring piece, we just, in one of the slides, I've got the exact numbers. I think we just added 3 enterprise, overall 8 enterprise reps. 3 of them are going to be in North America, and then we've got the acceleration team going live. We're considering an expansion of the acceleration team, but the model that we're building out is based off of a couple things: close rates, average deal size, average pipeline contribution per segment, average pipeline contribution per SDR. And we're building out a chart that tells us hiring plans for out quarters so that we can map to your goal with the number of hires that we're making and the amount of pipeline that we need to generate. And so that's how we're doing the hiring plans going forward. And then we're going to be looking at setting the goals appropriately based off of the pipeline coverage you need for each segment. So we're getting smarter and better about how we hire. We haven't completely poured gas on the fire yet, but I think that piece is coming out in the model.
And so how does that cover the gap between previously we had a 1-to-1 ratio?
Yep.
A new model. There's a gap in the middle that we don't seem to be executing against in the meantime, right? So how do we explain that to the reps that, hey, we suddenly took away people and resources and effort, and you'll get them back, but we don't really have a date yet?
Well, so it's not a matter of getting them back. I mean, I think we're still holding pretty close to the 1-to-2 ratio. If we're not, let me know. But I think we're still holding close to the 1-to-2 ratio and then using the acceleration team on top for the new sales. So in effect, the new sales are getting, not 1 SDR, they're getting 4 in that first month or in the first couple months. So we're gonna try to hold tight, but it's gonna be based off of really the numbers and the need of pipeline coverage, not necessarily the ratios. So based off of the pipeline need and the overall revenue goals, that's how we're gonna do the hiring, not necessarily from a ratio perspective. But like I said, if there's a lack of coverage, like if you're not getting that 2-to-1 coverage right now, and I think in some cases we're still in a 1-to-1 coverage, you and I can chat about it and fix it. Good? You can always talk about it, buddy. All right. Philip, next question.
Yes, Evan, thank you. I realized today that I don't know if we have a particular blocker in GitLab conversion. Do you have something arising more often than other features, or I don't know, anything that would prevent a prospect from converting to GitLab EE? And is that blocker the same for Premium versus Ultimate?
I'm not as close to those conversations as, say, the team is. So I'm actually going to defer to the team. Some of the SDRs like Sean or even Elsha and some of the folks on the phone, they can give their perspective on that. Anybody want to chime in? Any of the SDRs want to chime in? Typical blockers that you're seeing in the conversation? I know that some of it is just awareness, but when it gets down into the product piece, I don't have a lot of that detail. Any SDRs?
Hey, Evan, this is Mike. I can jump in. It's been a little while since I was on the phone, but the common ones that got in our way when I was working as an SDR definitely were less about features and a little bit more about timing. So did we just walk into somebody that signed a 3-year contract, or maybe just the reality of it not being a budgeted, item right now? But often they liked GitLab. It was just more about finding the champion that could get it moving.
Yeah. To piggyback on Michael, I think it kind of comes down to at what level do we actually have the conversation. Depending on how high into the organization you're calling, like directors, there may not be like awareness of GitLab, or like they already have kind of a plan put in place and they want to move that way. With individual contributors, they may feel that they like GitLab but might not have the power to make a decision. So I think there's a kind of an asterisk next to there.
All right, that's great to know. Thank you for sharing.
And
I'm
Philippe,
glad that we don't have. Yes.
I was just going to say, I've just found a report where we've got closed lost opportunities, and we give reason for loss. So I'll paste that into the document. so you can have a
Even
look at the
better.
report. Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, Rog, you're next again.
Same question, different week.
Same question. I mean, I'm getting
Yeah, no, you're right.
No,
So-
we get it. It's been months, right? So.
Yep. I mean, to be quite honest with you, that's a sales ops and marketing ops conversation. You know, we created that issue. You and I created that issue a while ago. And I think Robert iterated on it. There was discussion about whether or not it was going to be able to be done in Periscope with the field marketing team as well. So I think it's something that is an ongoing request, obviously. Where it is from their prioritization perspective, I don't know.
And I bring it up.
Evan, what do you mean with iterated on it?
We looked at multiple permeations of the reporting and never got it exactly where I think Reggie wanted it to be.
Okay, so so that something shipped. We were able to get data out. There was a report. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yep.
So there's a report at my region level. There's not a report at the sub-region level for the ASMs nor for the individual territories. And so I bring it up here because Evan's talking about, hey, if you need additional people and resources and effort behind a specific territory, let us know and we'll add that, right? Well, if we can't report on it, then I can't say specifically, here's why exactly we need it. It's anecdotal data from the rep saying, well, this is what I think it is, right?
Yeah, and to clarify, we're specifically talking about the lead volume per rep per territory. It's the SAO piece we can easily report on. So that's ask, and Reggie, we can raise that issue again and try to see if we can get more granular. Cool. Any other questions? I think we've run out. Reggie, you have another one?
I could come up with something.
I fully support people just asking the same question over and over again until it's solved. So
totally agree.
Evan, you're dealing with it mighty fine, but Mark, I also support I think when something is important, we shouldn't assume that because we said it one time that people are going to act on it. It's our responsibility to bring it up again and again and again until it's fixed. So I love seeing that.
No, and I 100% agree. 100% agree. So,
hi Evan. It's Julian Pikes from the UK here. I started a couple of weeks back. I was just wondering, you mentioned a 3% conversion ratio earlier in the call. I was just wondering if or what the strategy is for increasing that conversion ratio.
Well, and that ties back to John's question too, of looking at the quality of the leads and by source. So that's the first piece. I want to understand sort of what's converting, what's not, and where we're investing in accelerating the pieces that are and the pieces that are not. 3%, to be honest with you, based off of our size and growth and volume, I've seen that before. It's not alarming. I would like to see it improve. So that really, it ties back to a number of different things, but one of them being the lead quality, and then it's the quality of the conversation. And it's how far are we taking it? How deep are we going with those conversations? Are there particular triggers that are, creating a non-conversion, so to speak, in the conversations and in the type of messaging we're sending? So there's a lot of pieces to that puzzle. I'd say right now we're doing well. We could do better. It wouldn't be my top priority right now at looking at that conversion rate, but we do need to look at the quality of the leads that are coming in to start.
That's great. Thank you, Evan.
Yep. Elsha.
I put that in as a filler because there was nothing else there. What's top of mind for you at the moment?
Hiring and headcount, and hiring quickly, but still hiring quality is a big focus, as you know, because we talk about it weekly. I want to make sure that, yes, we are bringing in STRs quickly, but I want to make sure we're bringing in the right type of people for that role who fit our core values. So that's my biggest concern, because we do have a roadmap to pretty rapid hiring right now. I think we've got 14 open recs on the SDR side alone. So want to make sure that we're focused on the quality there. Second piece is the operational efficiency of the SDRs. The time to disposition a lead is quite challenging based off of some of the processes they need to follow. So we've kicked off working through making improvements there with marketing ops this week. And I'll share that epic. So that's the biggest one, because we've been watching some of the STRs and how long it takes them to work through a lead. So it needs improvement, shall we say. So those are sort of my two biggest ones. Okay, who's next?
I think that was me who has it. Yeah, I was just curious. So you mentioned that the whole organization is kind of moving from an XDR organization to revenue marketing, I think, at the top of the call.
Yeah.
It's like, and I know it's just a phonetic name change, but with that in mind, I'm assuming that SDRs are going to be aligned, or are aligned more to marketing than sales. And if that's the case, what are sort of the advancement plans for SDRs who want to go into something outside of sales? Because it seems like the current SDR progression plan is very heavily sales aligned.
Yep.
Just curious what your thoughts are there.
No, so I may have misspoke. My group's name is revenue marketing, has been since I started here, right? SDRs are part of that group. SDR is still going to be SDR. So that's not changing. So it was more referring to the group conversation covering more topics than just the SDR organization, since I was hosting it. So that's what I was referring to clarify. As far as more aligned to marketing than sales, I would say we're actually getting more sales aligned with the power of marketing behind us from the SDR perspective. As far as the way the goals are, the way we're mapping to the different segments, et cetera, we're getting more sales aligned. Career progression wise, so this is something I talk about with candidates all the time. Traditionally, the notion of SDR, sales development rep, I've never really loved that name, because it has always hinted at, come in, make the calls, do the job, you're going to get promoted to sales. I don't think we're that, right? And so with our role, as you know, Caleb, because you get exposure to this quite a bit, you get exposure to field marketing, digital marketing, sales, ops, finance in some cases. And it can pique an interest from a career path perspective. And so what the management team and I have been working on is, yes, we've introduced the SDR leveling, how you progress through the SDR organization. The next piece of the puzzle, and what I've been talking to folks about, is having the conversation. What's of interest and how do we get you there, right? How do we create that path? Who do you need to talk to? Who do you need to learn from to get you to the direction you want to go? If it's digital marketing, cool. Let's get you paired up with somebody in the digital marketing team, right? And start attending those meetings. And I know we do have some SDRs who attend those meetings and get exposure to those topics. So I'm a firm believer in this being a bit of a choose your own adventure type role. There needs to be obviously some communication with your leadership team on where you want to go. And then it's up to us as leaders to help you get there. All right.
I think I'm next. I can hop in.
Yeah.
I know we don't have that much time, but with the way that the acceleration team is aligning with field marketing and digital, do you foresee more traditional SDR teams converting to acceleration type model where everybody's super aligned, or do you think there's always going to be a place for the traditional SDR?
So, and it raises a question of inbound versus outbound too, and what that focus looks like. And it is something I'm thinking about, right? And as you know, we're learning through this process of the acceleration team. I think we could be onto something as far as what the next wave of SDR looks like, right? Like what the modern SDR could be when you have the ability to do some of the things that you're doing with your campaigns. So I do, TBD, it's too early to determine. We're only, 2-3 weeks in. So it's too early to determine if it is, but I think we could be onto something that could be changing the way we SDR overall. Cool. All right, and we are at time. So if there's no other questions, which I think you were the last one, Sean. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And have a great day.
Thank you.